Welcome back to the Troubleshooting Life podcast. I'm your host, Jay Peters, my co-host, Craig Poston, where we talk about various topics, sharing our experiences on life and finances. So today's topic is going to be on what I call Take the King, right? And Taking the King, it's an allusion to chess, right? So in all my time of like knowing chess, I've never been great at chess, right? So when I talk about chess, it's like very shallow amounts of understanding and what chess actually was, right? So when I thought about chess, it was just moving pieces. And I never understood that the strategy of chess is to take the king, right? And if you allude that to life, and my man Craig can talk about it as well, is that there are a lot of things that we do in life that aren't necessarily what the focus is of our goals, of our values, of our future wants and needs, right? So we'll just kind of go through life kind of expecting certain things and wondering why we didn't get the outcome, right? Wondering why we didn't win the chess match. But it's because we've lost focus, we lost vision of what we were actually doing or supposed to do. So what's going on, Greg?
Nah, not much, man. Yeah, that was a pretty good explanation of like take the king. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yes, yeah. But no, that's a true statement about like how we lose focus. We forget what the real goal is. What are we after? All right. And when I guess how I saw it is like being very strategic, right? You keep the end goal in mind, and we create all the little goals, all the little things you need to get to your. That's why I keep mine posted. Like I got my main goal that, overall that takes a while. It's like a 6-year goal, right? It's on my mirror. And then like my shorter goals, like in my office, so I can see it and see that, hey, I'm trying to do this, which leads to the big goal, right? And that's kind of how I see what like taking the king, right? You can't just go run towards it. I mean, it would be nice that everything did fall in place right away,
right?
But that's not how real life works. You got too many variables in there. So like if you don't, create some type of plan to get you to where you are, and then with that plan, you might have to adjust here and there because think about it, 6 years, that's a big time span. Too many things can come into play in that process. Get a new job, gain new assets. You got you might have an additional family member. You got all these different things that can come into play, and with coming with a strategic plan and following through with it, it gets you to where you can take that king.
Yeah. And so one of the things I heard was through Jim Rohn. If you've never heard of Jim Rohn, he was I don't know if he's still alive. I don't think so. But he was like a motivational speaker and educator as well. And one of the stories that he shares is about Andrew Carnegie, right? And for people that don't know who Andrew Carnegie is, I'm sorry, I don't know. But he was part of the industrial age, right? I actually don't know what he contributed to, whether it was steel or some shit like that. But he was, of course, a very wealthy man, right? That's why we have like Carnegie Mellon, Carnegie Hall, stuff like that. But Andrew Carnegie, after his death, someone found some of his notes from that he took when he was younger, right? The note was that for the first half of my life, I'm going to focus on accumulating wealth. For the last half of my life, I'm going to focus on giving it away, right? And it's not necessarily what he wrote, but it was his actions about what he did from what he wrote. And that's what he did. Like literally, he spent the first half of his life accumulating as much wealth as possible, and then he focused his last half of his life on getting rid of it, right? Whether that's in philanthropy, through donations, whatever it is, right? But that's the thing. That's what we kind of don't do anymore. And we were kind of talking about it earlier, is that we tend to lack focus on the things that we actually need to focus on.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I've always been personally like a person that kind of sits in the room and thinks like for a long time, like not on my phone, like just thinking, just like, or like, waking up and just thinking.
Yeah.
and think about like a lot of things, right? And like some of these could be like shower thoughts, like not necessarily what I should do today, but like what do I want my life to be, right? What do I want it to look like? Is there like a certain person I want to be? Do I want to look a certain way? Right? If I do, what does that certain way look like? Is it like the six pack washboard? Is it fat and, just chilling? Right. But I mean, those are very important because if you're not focusing on that stuff, then the opposite effect will probably come true. Right. So if you're not focusing on getting a certain physique and you just kind of let everything kind of happen to you, then it's going to be the opposite of what you want. Right. Or instead, if you have like constant affirmation, like how you do, Craig, where you have the different goals, like just posted everywhere, right? Just reminding you, like, this is what I'm doing it for. Like, so like in those days of, say frustration, stress, whatever it is, you have something that remind you is like, well, this is part of it, right? This is part of the process to get to this certain goal, to get to this specific end meaning, right? For whatever it is.
Yeah. Because another reason why you have these constant reminders is that focus could be those shiny objects. I think we were talking about that earlier, right? Well, you could see something, new car, might be some new appliances, new house, anything, right? That may get in the way. And the whole point is you need to kind of focus, okay, what was the purpose of you setting a goal or saving the money or doing whatever you need to do? Was it to just throw it all away on just one thing? Because like how we were saying earlier about if you don't focus on that shiny object, right, you can come back later on after you focused on your goals, which were investing, and use funds to actually pay cash for whatever said shiny object, right? Because that's how I was looking at it, like for a vehicle, right? I would like to get a brand new vehicle, but then it's like, all right, what am I losing in the process? What am I taking from it? Just like how we're able to go on trips without, not having a car payment actually allows you to have freed up money that could be used for trips. And that's kind of like how I look at it. But if you go and buy something new, which is most likely going to have a higher payment than you've already had before, which was nothing. And then the insurance on top of it, because you have to pay full coverage, or even if you pay cash for it, you'll want to get full coverage because then the amount of money that you've already put out, you'll like to just keep it covered. It's like that, what, mitigating risk or transferring risk, or what is it?
It is transfer.
Yeah. So, I get exactly what you're talking about with that.
Yeah, I think those shiny objects are kind of just put there as distractions to your focus. And the reason why I say like really kind of sit down with yourself and have those contemplations and write out what those goals are and how you want to achieve them is because at some point you're going to be rolling with people that you may not necessarily need to roll with or shouldn't be rolling with. And then their values, their goals become your values and your goals.
Yeah.
All right. So like you're hanging out with people that want to spend money, yet you're trying to save money, right? The likelihood of your goal actually being realized is very minimal because a common saying is that you are the average of the 5 people that are closest to you, right? And it's not necessarily just your friends. It could be your coworkers. It could be your significant other. It could even be your children. If those are the people that you are associating with and spending time with, then of course there are certain habits can rub off on you. It's just more of a likelihood or probability that you will take on theirs versus your own, right? So,
I mean, and I don't totally agree because, I mean, you're still allowed to have friends who don't have the same values, and maybe you'll rub off on them, right? I think it's just having that confidence. And I was talking about that about my daughter, how like, I don't feel like she's going to fall into peer pressure because she's like so comfortable with who she is, right? And if you can be comfortable with who you are, you're like, hey, I'm not a cheapskate. I'm really a person who has like a thought out plan of what I want to do with my money, and spending it on like just junk is not my thing. Because in reality, right, a lot of these things that we get, we turn around and throw it away. I mean, because I just think about the things that like I buy some things and then I have no reason to have it anymore. So I might just end up giving it away because either I want to upgrade it or it's just I see that how pointless it is. But we and I know the economy works like that, right? We're constantly like recycling, right? We go buy more things and we throw away things or we donate things and we just keep going and we keep going. But if you can like really understand how much money you're actually spending when it's on something that means nothing in reality to you, at the time it may have brought some value or it may not even brought value at all, right? But you like, I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. Like, so that's the things I try to like focus on. And when it comes to that, like having multiple friends, like you basically you want to have all those different perspectives, but it's just and how they kind of have it, or say it like that. I think it's really because sometimes some friends are very forceful. It's all or none, right? You need to be part of me or you're not. You can't do your own thing, and it's the same thing with relationships. Sometimes relationships don't even work because they want you to be a certain way. They don't want you to. They want you to be free with your money instead of like, okay, we need to think about this first before we go do something. So yeah, I mean,
my take is that it's always an option to be around people. Of course, at a certain age, right? So if you're a child and you have a guardian or a parent, not necessarily an option. But as an adult, you now have that option to be around people. And like, for example, like you and I have talked about before, being around our parents after we were adults and then moving out, right? It was an option at that point to be around them, right? So not saying that they were bad people or anything, but they necessarily didn't have the specific values that you wanted for you at that time, that you then force yourself to get out of that situation and surround yourself with other people necessarily, right? So I think your daughter may be that way because she has you or other people that are in a similar boat that are enforcing that specific habit or that specific value that she has.
Yeah. Then, I mean, sometimes we make a joke about it. It's like she's like too comfortable, right? I mean, or confident. Like, so basically, she like becomes a singing, right? I want to get her some lessons so she can actually really, so she can really like.
But she don't care about those lessons, dude.
Yeah. She's like, she's still singing. Listen to this, like.
Dude. I will say in that regard, I am that way, and my girlfriend hates it, dude.
Yeah,
like she hates when I sing, especially like in the car. But I'm like, I'm gonna sing it. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
like it's a song. I enjoy singing it. Who cares what I sound like? I'm not a professional singer. Would it have been better if I did sing well? Probably. I probably wouldn't get certain looks, but I'm like, that's just who I am. This is how I conduct myself, and I'm okay with it.
Well, but that's the thing, though. Like having confidence, knowing who you are, because like you don't. The thing is, you can improve. You may or may not be as good as like the top stars out there, but the thing is,
Mariah Carey.
Yeah, but you can still learn how. It's a new skill that you can gain. Learn how to use your voice in the right way, and that's because like she plays piano, so like she's confident at that. But I always tell her, I was like, well, you can do better. I know. I'm glad that you really, and she does. She'll play it good, right? Like, but I'm like, you can do better. Like, don't just stop there. Like, no, you got more to go.
I could just picture you like she plays like an entire composition for you, and then you're sitting there and you're like taking notes the entire time, and you're like, that was good, but this is where you can improve. And then I need you to do this. Like, and I was like, that was cute, but it wasn't the greatest.
Well,
I'm just joking around.
No. I mean, I think kids should get some reality because like not everything is gonna be perfect. You can't lie to them forever. Like, the greatest thing. Yeah. You're like, no, it's not. It's just and you shouldn't compare people with other people because they it can cause that. I guess them to lose interest because they're like, oh, I'm not good enough or whatever, right?
Yeah. Or I'm not as good as my brother. I'm not as good as my sister. I'm not good as the other person that has had piano lessons as well.
Yeah, but the point is I guess it's one of those things that try to get them to learn early on that there's always going to be someone smarter. There's always going to be someone better good looking. Somebody, there's always going to be somebody that can play the piano better, sing better. There's always going to be somebody extra. But the thing is that what you can keep doing is working and working hard at it. And you don't know what level you'll be on if you don't put in that effort. If you just rely on confidence. I mean, it's the same thing when I when in the on active duty, right? You have some soldiers who were like just great at PT, right? I mean, but they still didn't have the top score. But then you like look at them and like, yo, you could do better, you know?
Yeah.
But they don't want to put in that extra effort because they're like, well, I'm still beating out everybody else, or I still pass, or whatever it is, right? You know, like,
they lack the humility to improve.
Yeah.
And they feel that they are already at a great level when even the facts are shown against them that they're not at the best level.
Yeah.
They're okay with being a little bit less than great. They're okay with being good. And then at some point they might be okay with being mediocre.
Yeah.
And, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah, because think about it. If you're in a room with a bunch of number 10s, right? And then you're number 1 out of number 10s, like, you're just a better number 10, right? Like, you know, but if you're in a room with a bunch of number 1s and you're over the number 1s, like you're number 1, right? Yeah. It's like, so like, it's like a different way to look at it. So you can always improve yourself. You can always be better. It's like, soon enough, you're going to run into someone who's going to be even better, but you don't know until you give it a try. All right. Then you bring your best foot forward by putting in all the work. I mean, honestly, that all kind of ties into with taking the king, because like you got to put in that work to make yourself better to even reach your goals. So
I think part in taking the king and stuff is fully understanding what everyone or everything does. So, for example, like if you've ever played chess and stuff, different pieces can move different ways and can capture in different ways as well, right? Yeah. So, for example, a pawn can only move forward, but capture diagonally, right? Diagonally in front of it, not diagonally behind it.
Yeah.
A bishop can only move diagonally and only capture diagonally, whether that's front or back, right? So just knowing that there's different skill sets around you and that different people can help you with different things to achieve your goal, or you also have multiple skill sets that you could utilize, but they are for different purposes.
Yeah.
Right? And while the end goal is still taking the king, like as a person, I know that I can learn, right? How I learn is my pivot or my movement, right? So there are times where I can learn in a school setting. There are times where I can learn in a non-traditional setting. There's times where I can learn on the job and stuff like that, right? And then I know also as a person, I could also earn money, right? So I can learn, I can earn, but that's just a different vehicle. And that what that'll culminate into is whatever your goal is. So for me specifically, my goal is economics and economic wealth building and asset building, right? So me learning things and earning to kind of achieve that goal is what I'll institute onto capturing the king. And what I learned about like literally playing chess, like because I have it on my phone now and playing chess, is that I tend to not use all my pieces and I tend not to value all my pieces the same. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but what I'm saying is that if at the end of the game you're losing and you realize that you still have pieces that are not in play and you did not put them in a proper space to be utilized, then that's where you're lacking. And that's what you need to start seeing the bigger picture or the holistic view of what you're focusing on.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're making plans, but you don't know all the tools that you have to accomplish this mission. Yeah, that's because that is one of the things, like especially being a leader, you want to be able to understand, well, what tools do you have, what tools you don't have, what people can do or can't do, and in a sense, right? And I don't play chess, but listening to how you described it, that's basically how it is. Like what job can be done by which person? Like who has the best, skill at this point to accomplish this mission? And and by knowing who can do what, now you know how to direct in the correct form, right?
Yeah. And like, so think of it of like project management or or like a house, right? Renovating a house. Who can do flooring, right? Who can do paint? Who can do tile work? And another thought is, are they available? Do they have the time? How much more do I have to pay them to make that time?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, there's certain things that I think people need to fully flesh out and fully understand when they're going after a specific goal.
Yeah. No, that's that's a true statement, yeah. Because not understanding, the real reason why you're doing this, yeah, you definitely you're gonna fall short. I mean, I don't know if this is for you, like in like going through basic training or being in the military. If you don't know why you're there, then you're ready to tap out before you even get started. You're like, no, this is not for me. I mean, I saw that when I was in basic training. They were like, I didn't know if it was like, I didn't know it was like this, and they were already trying to get out. They're like, "We're too late now, buddy." You're like, only way you leave now is if you're injured, and then sometimes they recycle you injured. And I'm like you'd have to like come up with a way to get out of there. But I mean, yeah, having that true focus, that true goal, like why am I doing this? And yeah, you definitely you knock out, or I would say you have a better chance of accomplishing your mission. I would say because you things still get in the way. Yeah.
And kind of going back, like, people have heard our stories or like a few of our stories, and we could probably build a test that in our younger days we didn't have a concise goal or a specific goal, so we just kind of did the next thing, and maybe not the next right thing, but what we felt was the next right thing at that moment. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but because you can always make a move, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, in chess, you can never take that move back, right? If you're playing the game of chess, there are certain rules, certain regulations, and you cannot move back, right? So you kind of just have to live with that decision and just continue it. Like, you can't, there's no point of contemplating it. It's no longer reality of pulling it back.
Yeah.
So, but like, what do you think, just in general, what could have helped you build that focus, and what could you do that for your kids?
I think it's having that mentor or an example in your life. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Excuse me. So like with my kids, I try to provide some type of example. As like, even if I'm telling them to do something, I'm trying to like say, all right, this is a good reason why you should do this, And when I was younger, then I didn't have those type of people around me, or I didn't know I had those people around me, right? Like, if you go off of like your parents, sometimes they only teach you what they were taught, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't push you along further. But if you teach them to like, okay, you learn from me, but also learn from others, and then actually just constant improvement in yourself. Like, those are the things that like help you become better, and your goals get pushed further and further, and you do better and better every time. Versus just going off old stuff, and that's what I learned. Also, was like certain advice. You listen to everyone, right? But understand, it's like a smorgasbord. You pick and choose what you want out of this, because if it's not leading you in the right direction, then that's advice that doesn't help you. So that was another thing too, like understanding that, because like that whole thing when you're saying about your closest friends, your 5 closest friends, sometimes you're receiving a lot of advice from people who don't know anything, and that's where that it gets dangerous. But if you know who you are, you know what you're after, and you know how to go find information, then it doesn't matter who your friends are unless they're toxic, because you can have those friends that literally want you to be just like them or whatever, right? But
and they'll bring you down.
So that was things like that I've learned. That's when you have to start cutting people off, because the thought pattern isn't the same, and they're not about growth. It's about staying the same and enjoying the same old things, and that is good, because sometimes having that feeling of home or whatever, or having that feeling of like I feel safe or whatever. Every now and again you need that, but like a lot of times you got to go out there, you got to go do it, and you got to have those friends who are all about like, hey, what's the new adventure? What are we doing next? Versus like, let's do everything the same we did last year. Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to that, like it's things that I learned from the past that help improve me. That was probably that. It was just getting the right people around me, getting the right information, and now that this is the information age, like it's so much easier to get that new
Mm.
information. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think like what you're exposed to, who you're exposed to, really shapes out what the future or
Yeah.
outcome could be. Right. So like you said, I'm sure your kids are exposed to a different lifestyle, a different crowd than you were when you
Yeah.
were younger. Um, and of course, as you grew up, you have different friends. You have, or maybe the friends are the same and they just grew in a similar way that you did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just think exposure to me is a huge, huge proponent on growth and development, right?
Yeah.
So if you think of like an impoverished area versus a rich area, right? There are certain things that wealthy people are exposed to that will help them grow. And then there are certain things that impoverished people may be exposed to that don't help them grow,
Yeah.
right? Not saying it can't be vice versa. It definitely can. For example, like a lot of people have the conception that people that grew up in wealthy spaces are also very entitled. And while that may be true, I've definitely met people that are impoverished or came from middle class that also feel entitled. Um, and one person may say it's because they lived in this lack of having things.
Yeah.
So they feel like now things are owed to them because they were not given a silver spoon, right?
Yeah.
Or someone that was given a silver
Yeah.
spoon may have a similar mentality, but from a different take.
Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, taking the king for me has just been chess and strategic planning, critical thinking. Because like I said, like when I look at chess, and I didn't look at it this way for the longest time. And I used to play one of my buddies, and I would always wonder why I'm losing. All right. So one of the things I used to focus on, like I will say this, I never focused on taking the king. Like that was not my focus. When
Yeah.
in all actuality, that is all chess is about. Like chess is, in a fundamental standpoint, is capturing the opponent's king, right? And that's how you win. Um, but what I would focus on is just moving my pieces. And I noticed that I was very reactive to how they place their pieces, right? I never fully thought out what I was doing, but I saw that they moved their piece in a specific way. And I was like, okay, well, should I move mine there to capture it? Should I move mine there to block it? Should I capture theirs and risk mine being captured, right? Stuff like that. And so that could lead to a couple things. Of course, it leads to lack of focus, right? Lack of focus as in, why are you in focusing on capturing all these small little pawns, these insignificant pieces where you need to find a way to get to the king in the best way possible, right? There may come some sacrifices, there may come some wins, but at the end of the day, you need to capture the king.
Yeah.
And the other thing was playing too defensive, right? So I would play to not get my pieces taken and to try to take as many of their pieces, which is also bad because now you're lacking the focus of going towards the king and now you're receding away from that goal, right? So now you're putting yourself even in a worse position by no longer having it or using as much of your value as you can. And I think people do that in life, and let's say specifically in finances, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with budgeting. Definitely at least be cognizant of your input and your output of your money. But now, is there a specific value in pinching every penny to just buy a shiny thing? Is it valuable to focus on, say, couponing versus going to go make more money, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either, but I'm just saying whatever your focus is, that's where your energy should go. It shouldn't be, my focus is to make a bunch of money, but right now all you're doing is trying to save as much money as possible, right? Without maybe the intention of making a bunch of money. But yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. So with the budgeting, just like how you said, like the inputs and outputs, that's what you mostly worried about. Uh, the whole thing anyway is just learning how to live off of what you already have. And when you can live off of what you already have, then you can increase your income, which puts you in a better position. All right. It kind of lightens the load. If you already put percentages on your money, right? As you make more money, that percentage that you use for spending, now it grows, and now you have a little bit extra money. But if you do it that way, then you always come out ahead. Like I was saying earlier, right? Learn the true meaning of pay yourself first, right? That it took a minute just to put, like get my head wrapped around that, because I didn't understand. I was like, okay, so what do I do now when I don't have money? But then I was like, man, why am I being an idiot? It means go make more money, Yeah. So like, even if it means going to do what is that, Uber, or do some kind of small gig, on the side, just to make sure that you still keep paying yourself first, even if you need to cover some bills. All right, you're like, okay, I'm missing some money on, make sure I make this cell phone bill. All right, well then I'm gonna go do something real quick to create some money, but I'm never gonna stop putting away money so I can keep investing. It just always, you keep this cycle going. That's like how to get your brain focused around doing something like that. Yeah. So that's where I think, like, understanding the budgeting, that's where it'll come in, learning how to utilize your money properly. And then the same as that whole thing with, just I guess the spending in general, right? Just you understand where your money, and you learn how to increase your value, increase your income, and then you'll also just keep going. Dang. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, this was a great talk.
Man.
Migrate over to the frugal and cheap.
All right. Frugal and cheap. All right. Look like we got here only going out to places with discounts. So this is for military or kids eat free or something like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't do that all the time, but I do this. You got to save money somewhere. Okay. Yeah.
True. It's like, I used to, man. So I remember one time, that this needs to be a quick thing, but the only time I ever used like my military discount when I was younger was on Veterans Day, where you try to do the hustle and you try to go to like breakfast, lunch, dinner to every place that's like offering like free Veterans Day stuff. And honestly, I haven't done it since that first time, because I was like, it just didn't match my values or goals, and I did it anyways, right?
Yeah.
And what I meant by that is that I don't go out to eat, like, unless it's like for a celebration or for like, it has to be for a specific reason. It's not just to go out to eat.
Yeah.
So, but like, I saw the discount and I was like, I guess that's cool. But I, like, at the end of the day, I was like, I didn't feel any better. Like, and now I do ask for military discounts, but it's for stuff that I value. So like, if I go to Lowe's, if I go to Home Depot, military discount, right? Because that's what I'm focusing on. That's what I'm focusing on, getting like properties ready and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just, my.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think of it more of a frugal thing. I know some people, they always try to say it's cheap because you ask for a discount, but in reality, if you can save money here and there, and especially if you eat out a lot, I mean, if the place offers military discount and you got family, you might want to try to, take advantage of that. But how you're looking at it, that's still kind of an investment, right? You're learning how to discount products that you need to purchase anyway for an investment. So to me, that sounds like you're using like good business practice there, right? You try to get it at a cheaper price, but then when you improve the value of this home, now it's better, right? You can rent it for more. So it sounds like, I mean, to me, more of a frugal because it's thought out. And I guess cheap would be if you're just, I mean, I don't know, just trying to get a discount to get a discount. There's no point in it.
Yeah.
All right, man. This is Craig and Jay signing off the Troubleshooting Life podcast. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Please like and subscribe.